part 2.
No, sorry, now go.
Answering your questions, part 2.
Wait, I'm not ready.
Answering your questions, part 2.
I'm not ready. All right. Loading. It's loading. All right.
Answering your questions, part 2.
Yes. All right, so first question, Gabrielle Montova asked, how do you split the sessions for a competitive athlete and how much that change in the competitive season?
I think,
how much does that change?
Yeah, I think that's a question that gets answered comprehensively in the courses. There's, at some point it's very hard to with a high level athlete, it's very hard to say like, oh, this is an aerobic session or this is a strength session. They're kind of doing like all things all the time in every session, and you're just kind of distributing the amount of stress you're putting on one system. Like you're kind of turning the dials up and down on the different systems in each session, but you're not really like, segmenting them.
Cool. Coach Richmond asked, are you accepting interns, apprenticeship at TDT? Been following all the media and would love to be a part of it all.
I think in part 1, same thing, like take our courses, show interest when we create our products on site, come on site, meet everyone, get evaluated, educate yourself, find out what we're doing, and kind of become a part of it before you think you're going to work for it.
Cool. Next question. Ryan Lepper asked, is the mentorship program still on the table in your developmental programs?
Yes. We're redoing the courses, and my plan, and I've realized that plans and timelines are very difficult to adhere to, and we're focused on trying to make sure that the quality is good, but the plan is to launch the upgrades of the courses, and then right after that, create a mentorship program that is a beta version 1 for the people that have already taken our courses and already reached out and shown interest in that.
Awesome. The Blair Wolf Project asked, when are you going to recruit athletes to the gym from the video you had around the games?
Can you repeat that question?
When are we going to recruit athletes to the gym?
I already did reach out on this yesterday. I reached out to 16 people, and we have a bunch of other people who are already committed. So it's pretty much already done.
Cool. Built by Johnson asked, how do you go about programming testers or measure an athlete's progress in their capacity to perform certain movements or domains? What formats do you use? Are they interval repeats, death by, etc.? Is the format the same every time you test an athlete?
I'm so confused as to where you are on my list. Did you jump ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. All my notes are on this. I'm like, what the hell? How did you lose me? Okay, Built by Johnson is here. All right. Repeat that question. Now I'm on. Now I am where you are.
So you can read it in your head. Okay, I'll read it again.
Yeah, and I'm going to listen this time.
Do a noise now.
Yeah. No, it's got to be a bad noise.
Lightning strike.
Yeah.
You know what that means. Reread a question, you
Yeah.
get lightning strike.
I'm sorry. I feel ashamed now. I'm breaking out into sweats.
How do you go about programming testers or measure an athlete's progress in their capacity to perform certain movements or domains? What formats do you use? Are they interval repeats, death by, etc.? Is the format the same every time you test an athlete?
All right. Testing is going to be a course question in our assessment course. We use them all. Depends on the athlete's goal, what time of the year they're in, what they need. I think CrossFit has tested intervals. It's tested workouts back to back before. It's tested AMRAPs. Like it's tested every type of structure that you can manipulate time in. So you have to figure out how to have a comprehensive subset of tests to test all of those things if you want to test athletes.
Got it.
So it's not the same.
I found the right one. You idiot. All right, Built by Johnson asked, have you picked up any new elite athletes since the games?
No.
Okay.
But I'm in talks with a couple, so we'll see how they turn out.
Cool. SLP Laniel asked, injury. Which injuries come back most in individual or group programming that you see the most, and why? We're
going to answer that one in
a separate video.
Yeah, in a separate video.
Jock Fitness 13 asks, for me and many others, I train by myself, individual programming, and sometimes it gets damn hard to keep pushing through a competitor-style program with no one there pushing you. What would be a couple things for solo trainers to keep in mind to get the same stimulus as a training partner, or just having more people around to help push through?
It's a separate video.
Separate video.
Yep.
When you say that means you're going to make a video all about that one?
We're just going to answer these specific 10 questions in a little bit more depth. It's a separate video for 10 specific questions that I pulled out of here that I thought were relevant for more than just a 2-second or a 1-minute response.
Gotcha.
Cool. CM Becknell asked, as a coach, each programmed workout has an intended stimulus and an intended goal or result as a training tool. Much longer question. Do you and the training think tank coaches specify the goals of each training piece for your athletes to better grasp their mentality, or is the mental game elucidated in a different way? That's also a separate video.
Yeah, that's another video.
Matt Lowe asked, have you come to a conclusion as to whether you think it's better to always pace workouts or to sometimes front load the work in a workout?
I think I have come to the conclusion that it's never absolute. Sometimes you have to front load a workout. Sometimes the pace of a race is going to get pulled faster in the front end of a workout, and you got to keep up so you know where everybody is and what people are capable of. And sometimes you need to try to linearly pace. So it's just my conclusion is that I'm not going to get an answer to that question.
Cool. Matt Lowe also asked, do you think CrossFitters have reached their peak weightlifting numbers, or will they eventually start to approach the numbers that Olympic weightlifters hit?
I think it depends on how they continue to test in the sport. You know, if they put more gymnastics and more running and more burpees and more breathing stuff in the earlier phases of the competition, I think you'll see people get weaker over time. If they put more heavy weightlifting in, I think you'll see people get stronger. So it depends on the bias of the testing body of CrossFit.
Cool. C. Ron asked, let's say you had it's 3 Rons.
Is it Ron?
Oh yeah, Ron. Ron asked, let's say you had an 18-year-old come to you who said, I want to go win the CrossFit Games. He, as an athletic background in some sort of sport at a high level, understands the commitment, has the drive to do it, etc., but has never done any or very little strength and conditioning work. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not funny. In the most ideal situation, how would you plan for this athlete to succeed? How many years of prehab, technique-focused, monostructural work would you think to put in before CrossFit, sport-specific work, and how many years would you aim the program around to accomplish that goal?
Yeah. I think, can I phone a friend? I don't think that, the first thing I think all coaches need to get in their head is that you can't predict the future in anything, in life in general. You don't know what you do today and how that is going to impact what the future is. So if anybody is getting up there and saying, you know, at 18 years old, do this for 2 years and this for 2 years and this for 2 years, and then the result is optimal performance, they're kind of full of shit. Now, we all need systems to apply to people, and I don't think that there are systems yet for this sport starting with somebody that young, because the sport is too new, or we haven't seen enough data of people that were working on this sport specifically starting at a young age. So in the most ideal situation, I'm just going to work with that athlete one-on-one and continue to get them better, keep them healthy, and balance competing, training, their life, their growth as a human being, their education, and kind of see where it takes us.
Cool. Carlo Pog, huge fan of Pogs, asked, the 3 most important things a coach should provide to his or her athletes.
The 3 things that they say are most important to them.
What are 3 examples?
I mean, I would literally ask an athlete, what do you need from me to succeed? I would think that the most people would probably answer that they need a program, that they need some sort of emotional support and communication, and know that you have emotional buy-in to them. And then 3 is advice based on experience for something that they haven't experienced yet. So if an athlete's going to the games and they haven't been there, and I've coached somebody that has been at the games, then I can give them valuable experience that helps them potentially cope with that uncertainty a little bit better. I'd say, that's 3 kind of examples, but I don't know if there's a most important list.
Got it. Cool. John Lapp, 2017 asked, do you see CrossFit backing off the intensity level a bit and putting some focus on practice? And if not, do you think it should or stay with what made it what it is today? It's really hard reading short paragraphs.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this question is asking. So CrossFit as an educational body that certifies trainer and creates affiliations. CrossFit is a sport at the CrossFit Games. And then CrossFit is also a philosophy and a way of thinking about fitness in general from Greg Glassman. So I don't know, if you go back to the philosophy, I don't think they have ever they talk about the development of skills and skill acquisition and learning new things. And if you're learning new things, at first you can't have intensity. So you're doing things at a sub-maximal level as you're learning new skills. So I don't know if CrossFit is backing off or what their beliefs are. I don't know if you can get a clear picture of what the entire organization and the sport and the philosophy means. It's just it's kind of too big to define at this point. So I don't really know, but I think if anybody wants to get good at anything, they need to do some high intensity work and some low intensity practice work in a non-threatening situation so they can get better at both being intense and at being having virtuosity in movement or whatever you would call that.
Cool. The next question might kind of go in line with that. Francesco asked, given that you have openly expressed your love for writing in your blog, have you ever thought of writing a handbook on CrossFit training? Is that even possible given the current state of knowledge on the sport, or is CrossFit evolving so fast that it will never allow for a comprehensive study?
I don't anticipate writing a book on CrossFit training. If I write a book on training, it will probably be about the human body and the mind and potentially how to apply it to sport. And maybe one component of that could be applying it to the sport of CrossFit. But I'd probably put other sports that I have experience with in there as well, because I think they're kind of all relevant and they all kind of tie in together. I don't think that anyone can... I think it's possible to create a handbook. I don't know how useful it is, and I know in 10 years it will be overturned, everything that we say now, because the sport will change and it will become irrelevant. But I do think, somebody out there will probably try to do that. I think the best people to do that would be CrossFit themselves.
Cool. Zappa asked, really enjoyed the video from your YouTube channel on the regional events. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the games events and what was your approach with both Trevor, and Noah. Probably bring up the blog that you wrote.
Yeah, I wrote a 5-part or 6-part blog article thing. I think if you want to kind of know my thoughts, that'd be the place to go. What I did with them in Madison in preparation, their yearly training, that was kind of for internal education for our coaches, and we're not going to really talk about that. I think out of respect to athletes, they want their plans and their preparation and what they're doing to be something that's private to me as their coach or the coaching organization that helps them, and to them, because I don't think they'd be a part of it if they didn't think there was a competitive edge there. So I'm not going to really kind of share how we're analyzing everything that they're doing and how we're trying to make corrections moving forward based on the mistakes we made.
But Mom!
I love you.
All right. Next question. The Timbo Slice asked, on a recent Ben Bergeron podcast, he talked ideally we should be practicing and training a combined 90%, then roughly competing 10%. Competing meaning you track your score and attempt to best your previous record. He stated the opposite holds true in your typical CrossFit box because your typical athlete would become bored. What are your thoughts around this as far as training, practicing, and competing? Thanks.
This is going to get covered in a separate video.
Yep, another separate video.
Yep.
So check that out. Kim Jacket asked, why does following a strength programming cycle inhibit fat loss if nutrition is set for fat loss macros? That's also a separate video.
Yep.
Teddy Lomas said that we kind of had this conversation at the South Regional, but I'd be interested in Max's ideal format for regionals going forward. best way to get the best athletes at the games in the fairest manner? For example, eliminating the debate that there are in fact weaker regions, meaning we don't have a true representation of the top 40 at the games.
Another video?
Yep, also a separate video.
Separate video!
Separate video. We have so many separate videos coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to be here for hours. Javier De La Torre asked, when you decide to start a remote coaching program, what do you expect from the athletes? I'm assuming he means starting up with a new coach.
Oh.
What do you expect
So
from the
he's
athletes?
saying if he signed up for remote coaching with us, what would our expectation of him be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is just honesty. I think a lot of people, either they're unaware or they're lying to themselves. They say, I want to do something, and then when you give them a plan to actually do it, they don't do any of the things that they say they're going to do. I mean, my expectation now as a coach is that when people sign up, they're going to be true to their word. If they say, I'm going to do this, they're going to do it. And if I correct them and they don't continue to do that, then we just break the coaching relationship because, you know, as a coach, you can't whip people and force them to do things. You can only tell them, this is what I think you should do, and then it's their obligation to do it. And then I think communication is probably the most important thing. That is communicating honest feelings, thoughts, emotions, but also daily results reporting, emailing on a regular basis, coming in person every once in a while, and being able to move face to face, filming exercises. Just all of that stuff has to get done if you want to succeed when your coach is not exactly where you are.
Cool. 3 left. All right, so Furyan CrossFit asked, when, if ever, will you guys be releasing anything with affiliate programming? I think affiliate programming meaning group programming.
Yeah, so we are in the process now of creating a group program. I think instead of even phrasing it now as a group program, it's almost my attempt at creating a group coaching structure, because the program is going to be variable depending on who signs up, what their schedule is like, and we're going to try to coach people on how to use a series of workouts and how to put that into their training week relative to their goals. So it's going to be a little bit more comprehensive than a program, and it's going to be my attempt at trying to coach a large group of people, which is very difficult because you're not going to have that much one-on-one communication. So I'm working on that. I think that it's going to be ready to go mid-November.
Was that going to tie in with the on-site group or no?
Yes, it is going to be. There is going to be a lot of carryover between what our current training think tank team, the people who were recruited, and what Travis and Noah do on a regular basis. So you'll have portions of what their program looked like, and you'll know exactly what the training think tank team is doing throughout the course of a week. And then you'll have the ability to kind of adjust and pick relative to your goals. If they're doing, like if you're not a full-time CrossFitter and you're a coach and you just want a program to follow, there will be enough training sessions throughout the course of the week that you could mix and match relative to your schedule and kind of take it from there.
Yeah, we'll make another video that talks more in depth
Yeah,
about what the specifics of it.
Yeah, when it's actually built out, I will make a comprehensive video explaining who it's for, how it's laid out, how to get started, who's following it, and just kind of go through the whole deal.
All right, cool. Next question, Kevin.Montford asked, what are the top 5 training principles all athletes and coaches should follow, and which one is most often overlooked?
I don't know if I can answer that question. The top 5 training principles.
What are your 5 current training principles?
What's a principal? Like,
it's a guy that takes care of children at a school. Could be a woman.
Yeah. I really am like, what do you mean by a principal? Like,
I don't know. I didn't write the question.
Yeah.
Like the tactics might change over time, but the principles still will be the same. It's kind of like like the foundation of your thoughts aren't going to. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, maybe. All right. So balance, hard and easy training. Don't do too much of either. Mm-hmm. Balance, just in general, could potentially be one of the principles. Yeah. Don't be excessive in anything. Focus on the love in your life, families, relationships, mentors, coaches, training partners, like people, and those those components of love can be different for each one of the relationships. Thank you. Listen to your body and maybe listen to your body or be part of your body. Don't ignore the signals of your body. So if you don't have an appetite on a regular basis and you're not triggered to like want to eat, there's a problem with that. If you're not thinking about sex ever, there's probably a problem with regards to your sex hormones. If you're not sleeping on a regular basis and sleeping through the night, there's probably a problem. If you can't sit still for more than 5 minutes in a row, there's probably a problem. Just like basic things that are part of physical training, reading from like thousands of years ago in yoga and martial arts and like Eastern methodologies, like all of that stuff existed, and I think it existed for a reason because you're still seeing people do it. So there's a lot of utility to that. I think people get lost in like, I should be eating like this, or I should be eating like this, I should be eating like this, and you forget to like just stay in touch with your own system. So pay attention to that. Fourth would be surround yourself with people that are where you want to go or are wanting to go to the same place as you. So if you want to be a games athlete, try to find people who are games athletes to learn from. If you don't have access to that, find other people that also want to be games athletes and learn with them, grow with them, ask them questions, do things with them, find coaches out there, find different ways of thinking. That would be 4. And 5 would be
Moxie.
That's an inside joke. 5 would be there's only 4 principles.
All right, cool. You hear that, kids?
Yeah. We have one more question, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, let's get
it's
it
the
done.
Moo Cow. It's time to wrap it up. RSUSIGAN. Suzigan? Man, the last one I butchered. How do you count the volume, weekly, month, etc. of a strength training, but with a metcon for the energy system that has weights at the end of the cycle? Do you count this volume together? For example, wall ball and metcon, do you count upper body push 50 times, same as bench press? How do you deal with this volume coming from metcon? I ask because it ends up finding a very large variable which can interfere with your strength training or energy system, as well as many others, if possible. Details, RS. What's that mean?
My thought process when I hear that question is that somebody's coming from a traditional strength training background and they're used to calculating weekly tonnage. This is how many lifts I've done. This is the percentage. This is the load. I'm going to multiply that up and I'm going to be able to track it over time. Mm-hmm. Or there's endurance models where you take the amount of time that something's done, the heart rate or RP, and you get a total training load in a week. With complex sports, it's almost impossible to do that. And if you're lost in the data, you're not going to be able to progress. So I would tell people, based on my own experience and having tried to quantify all these models before and found some really intelligent minds to help me do it, and we all have come to the conclusion that instead of trying to focus on the data, it's better to focus on the athlete as a human and figuring out which data points are most important to track. And volume, tonnage, load, and some of the things that are used in traditional studied sports like the endurance sports and basic strength sports, weightlifting and powerlifting, those might be good variables to track, but they're just not good in CrossFit. So I would suggest throwing them out and not getting lost in them because it's too hard to track and manage, and there's too many conflicting signals in a training design.
Cool. That might have answered the second part to this question because we thought we were done, but there's a part 2.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, it's all right. It's totally different, I think. How much volume do you decide to start with? 70% of test results. How much does it increase from week to week? I know it depends on the athlete, but...
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the athlete. I think I generally will start slightly more conservative than where their current training was when they started with me. So if they started at 20 sessions a week, I'll usually go to like 15. And that's just arbitrary because I always feel like it's always it's always possible to escalate volume and kind of go into more aggressive states of training, but very infrequently have I seen people who are uncoached or who have this like aggressive mind state actually take back off periods. So it's good for me to kind of get insight into where their body is. If I reduce the training stress and they start to get big training gains, then I'm like, okay, well, their body probably wasn't in a state of adaptability, and I'll retract volume even farther to see how little training can we actually do to get progress, because that's what we want to find. Like the most efficient training program is doing the minimum amount of work to get the maximum possible result. And now, you know, if you're a games athlete, the minimum amount of work is still quite high because you have to be prepared to do, you know, 13 workouts over the course of 4 days. But I think a lot of people are just, again, they're just lost in volume. They want to do more, but they're not really focused on whether or not it's getting better. So does that kind of answer that?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
All right. That's it.
Bam. That's all the questions. Yep. We'll have another video that covers 10 specific ones that were on here. And then there, I think, were 2 or 3 that we decided to turn into their own kind of 20 or 30 minute rambling ideas videos.